Okay, as a couple of very old Melbourne supporters, we are in uncharted waters at the minute, you'd have to say. We're not quite sure what's going on. We've made a preliminary final. We're discussing whether or not to go to Perth. I think Titus might be going to Perth. I'm going to stick around town. But as the great Hunter S. Thompson once said, buy the ticket, take the ride. This is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. We're back on a Monday right after the semi-final weekend, and we're not sure quite what we're doing. I'm Sergio Paradise, and he is the great man Titus O'Reilly.
Well, I love this time of year every year. Finals is amazing.
It is good, isn't it?
And then this year you got Richmond Collingwood, which is going to be insane on Friday night.
Yeah, it's going to be
mental.
The whole city is just going to be bursting out of its skin for the entire week.
Yeah, and then you've got the Eagle over in Perth. It's going to be crazy. So the Eagles fans will be going nuts, and I think flights are all booked now. I don't think you can really get flights to...
I think you can get a few via Singapore if you want to.
Really? Is that the only way? Yeah. Like you basically have to go overseas to get into Perth.
You can go via Bali. A mate of mine was going to go via Hong Kong, but that's now shut because of a typhoon.
Typhoon?
Yeah, everything's conspiring against football supporters.
I bought my ticket in the fourth quarter.
That was very smart.
And someone near me, some friend of mine says, "You're jinxing it, shut the app." And I was like, if I don't do it now...
So you got a decent deal.
I got a decent price. Like it wasn't
because
insane.
Half an hour after the game, it was madness.
Well, I'm a Melbourne supporter, so I don't look at the price. I've never looked at the price of something in my life. But
a guy I know bought 2 tickets 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he got them like for $180 each way.
Yeah.
And he said, and if we don't make it, well, I'll just write off the $400.
Well, see, after the game... this is the most Melbourne story ever, but after the game I went into the members, one of the bars in the members, and got talking to this random guy, and he says, "Are you going?" I said, "Yeah, I just bought the tickets, the finals, bought the airline tickets and everything." And he said, "Yeah, I booked the hotel and tickets a couple of weeks ago just in case." And I'm thinking, like,
who does that?
Who does that? Like, they're just either the confidence is extreme, or you're just like... I mean, I suppose if you buy the flights and you buy them flexi, so you can
change the
times and dates, so you go, well, I can use that credit in some way for something else. But it's amazing the lengths people will go to.
I know.
And so so that was kind of, but I went to both the finals on the weekend.
Right.
And talk about a study in contrast. So going on Friday night, it was like the largest private school reunion in the history of time. Like, you cannot tell the difference. As much as everyone, you can barely tell the difference between Hawthorn and Melbourne supporters. Yeah,
it's like walking into the bar at Royal Melbourne.
Yeah, like it's country road, a lot of chinos. Yeah. Everyone's pretty well dressed. Yeah. It was pretty funny. Like
there's the old Melburnians over there, old Scotch over here.
Yeah, they consider diversity having someone from every private school represented, and it really was like that. Like it was. And they stereotypes are not always true, but
still look down on Carey as not being quite good enough to be in the APS.
But it is funny how much it's like the stereotypes still these clubs, because they're so old and so much of. The suburbs they're based on.
And the week before, Geelong's a bit like that too.
Yeah, like not a lot of Geelong supporters
live in Western District farmer types.
Yeah, but also you look at Collingwood, for example. Yeah. The majority of Collingwood supporters don't live in Collingwood anymore. No. But the stereotype and the thing, it carries on. So Friday was kind of... there seemed to be a big fight in the members. Were you near that?
No, I wasn't in the members. I ran a bit further.
Right, because there seemed to be at one point a big fight in the members, and they're all police rushed in during the first quarter, I think. And I thought,
a couple of blokes might not get their cards renewed.
Well, I thought if some Collingwood supporters come a day early.
Because you rarely see too many Collingwood supporters.
Let's be honest, private school gangs are more worrisome for me than most others, like those Xavier guys last week or something. But so anyway, so that was the Friday night, and it was kind of interesting. And then I went on the Saturday night, and it was just very different. Like the Collingwood supporters, there was a lot less cravats, a lot more tracksuit pants. But it was a palpably different group. Yeah. Like you could really notice the difference. But I mean, both crowds that I saw were incredibly well behaved.
Yeah.
There were quite a few Giants supporters there. Like, it wasn't.
There appeared on TV to be more than I would have thought.
It wasn't the dearth of Giants supporters everyone made out. Now, I'm not saying it was like insane numbers, and the fact that every person that works at the MCG is in orange OH&S colours made it. Sometimes I looked and thought, there's a group of. There's a group
Giant
of
supporters.
Giant supporters, but it was just someone checking tickets.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I saw a Collingwood supporter approach a GWS fan asking where their seat was. But overall, it was kind of, interesting. But the noise after the Melbourne win was...
I thought it was pretty big.
I've never seen anything like that at a Melbourne game.
I thought the Geelong...
Yeah, but it was nothing, was it?
But it was even more so the other night. No question of that.
And Collingwood fans, it was just so overwhelmingly Collingwood that it was only about 70,000 though, 72 maybe, I think. But it was still very loud, and it was all one way, which wasn't the case with the night before. But it was a great contest. The Collingwood supporters were thrilled at the fact Toby Green played so badly and was shut down. Like, that was kind of amazing watching that.
And they got a couple of blokes now, Collingwood, like that, who can, like Maynard, that Braden Maynard, he's the one who fixed up Toby Green.
They've got a bunch of good players. Like, this is the weird thing about Collingwood.
You wouldn't have put Maynard down. It's a bit. They're a bit like Melbourne like that. You wouldn't have said 6 months ago, Melbourne, James Harmes, he's one of the more important players at Melbourne. You would never have said that. But just as you wouldn't say that about Maynard at Collingwood, but this is
the thing about sides that suddenly get good. If they're playing well as a team too, everyone looks better. Yeah. It's sort of that rising tide floats all boats, And suddenly all these players, and this is the thing, Collingwood's injuries have been terrible, and that, like Treloar going down and others, and he's come back in good form, but in some ways has exposed this other generation of players who are actually better than some of the injured players they're replacing. That seems to be what's happening, So
blokes like Myercheck and these guys, probably would have been lucky to get much of a run this year.
I mean, I've underrated Collingwood all year, and proving everyone wrong. I mean, we're now really quite realistically in the situation where a Collingwood premiership is not
it's almost imminent,
Well, it feels like it's worryingly close. The thing I found...
What if they do beat Richmond this week?
Well, this is the one thing...
What if it's a Melbourne-Collingwood grand final?
It happens every year, because Richmond didn't play this weekend, it all got... And West Coast... And the fact is, and we will get to West Coast in a bit of detail, so for Perth listeners, because I know Perth listeners are just going... Hey, we're in the finals too.
Yeah.
We actually finished second, and
we're in the final four.
Yeah. We actually one of the better teams over the season. Yeah. You wouldn't know that in Melbourne. No. But everyone sort of forgot Richmond a bit this week. They're all going, how great Collingwood are in, and how great are Melbourne, and all this, and that's fine. But Melbourne still have to go to Perth, which is hard, and then come back if they win, which is no foregone conclusion by a long shot. You've got Richmond sitting there, not a lot of injuries, in good form,
had a week off.
In good shape, had a week off, which some people argue can be against you, but I think
they're ready to go.
They're ready to go. So it's, I think people we're all excitedly getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
But still, it was enormous fun.
It was, and it's going to be a ripping weekend of footy again. There's no question of that.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that's interesting, I was in Adelaide last week. I did a gig for Port Adelaide, which was a lot of fun, actually. But it is, like, you do notice where there's no finals in the city.
Yeah.
Like, it is a shame in a way that there weren't any Adelaide teams in. And I mean, the Sydney teams
wasn't really a shame.
Well, but you do notice the difference, the impact it has on
at least
a state.
Without either of their teams in the finals, all the good folk of Adelaide could have been watching Channel 9 last night at 9:30. Did you see that? There was a doco on Channel 9 called City of Evil, and it was all about Adelaide.
Well, did you produce it?
Tell you what, I recorded it.
You've already watched it twice.
Some people watch the Melbourne replay over and over. I'm going to watch City of Evil.
I watched the Melbourne replay, and I said this on Twitter, and I got a lot of people responding. And I think a lot of people do this as well. Mm. When I watch a replay of a Melbourne game that we've won, like a great victory, I still yell at the television and get nervous. It's the and I know it's ridiculous.
I know.
You yell at the umpiring decisions.
Yeah.
you go, come on, get it, it's free, and you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I did the same.
Do you do that?
You yell the umpire. You go, that wasn't a free kick last night.
Yeah,
and it certainly isn't now.
Yeah. I thought the umpiring on the Friday night was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
But I would say this, like there was a couple of the below the knee rule. Brayshaw had one, and then
Jordan
Lewis had one, and they were both horrendous. But I also would say there was a Hawthorn. There was one bit where Tyson got tackled, and it should have been a free to Hawthorn, wasn't. And there was another free kick in the forward 50 for the Hawks that wasn't paid, which was a clear, I think, high tackle.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was, but I know the one you made.
Yeah, so looking at the game as a whole, while the ones that came at a key point and were against Melbourne kind of got a lot of the coverage, the umpiring was terrible in the night. Like in Hawthorn, I thought both sides just copped some. I mean, I don't know who got the rub of the green, but I thought at different points, but there was just some decisions. And that below the knees thing.
Yeah, also the umpires.
That's one where I don't blame the umpires. They've been given that stupid rule.
Yeah.
This is why I have no faith in the new rules. We'll get to the new rules being proposed, but this is the ridiculousness of this situation.
I mean, look at and I tell you, you don't blame the umpires for those two decisions below the knees because they are the rules. But haven't they thrown away the protected zone 50-metre thing?
But this isn't a case where.
And I'm glad
why did it take weeks to fix that when it's really just quite a sensible adjustment? Like the whole rule should just be, an opponent can't impede around the man on the mark.
There was one in the first quarter the other night. I can't remember. It may have been Harms or Frost who clearly ran through the mark, the protected zone.
Yeah, not through the mark, but through the protected zone.
I thought, but they let it go. That was fine. But I thought, geez, 3 weeks ago, that was 50.
Yeah, it has no impact on the... No. And that's the other problem with that is it's the penalty was too hard as well. So, so I thought Collingwood were really good. I thought GWS, they've gone from everyone was paranoid they were going to sweep all but for them, for the next however many years. There's talk of... Shield leaving and all these sort of potential... They've got problems retaining players. We all know that. It's been hard. It is harder for them. Now, they've done a good job on some players, but it is harder just being in Sydney. But suddenly it was like people were like, they lost. No, there doesn't seem to be this... They seem to be slipping back to just being a club now, not a...
Yeah, you just can't rely on GWS. Now, they have a star-studded lineup, but you can't rely on them all playing well. When they do... They're incredibly difficult to beat, but you can see the other night, blokes like Toby Green and they didn't get a kick. A couple of their other big names didn't get a kick. They come right back to the pack.
Do you think this is, though, a case where people sort of view raw talent and being able to do occasionally exciting things? They get overawed by that and don't look at the teams that are just really well drilled and do all the little things well. Like, that's where Collingwood are... I mean, they've got some very good players as well, Collingwood, don't get me wrong, but they also just do everything well, where I just felt Collingwood would run through a brick wall to win, where I don't get that sense from GWS, and on the night I didn't quite get that sense, so... And
it was like a few years back, they were so well drilled. Geelong and Hawthorn were like that. You always knew that they'd played for each other, they played for the coach, and there'd always be a teammate there for them at every opportunity. Yeah. But you don't get that feeling with GWS. Even though I reckon Leon Cameron's done a pretty good job this year.
Yeah.
They're just... Yeah, you just can't rely on them, as I said.
On the Hawks, before we move on to next week's games, Hawks were, I thought overall, at times, like, could have been significantly up. Like, they kicked straight. That second quarter, they really wrested control. Yeah. But didn't make Melbourne pay on the scoreboard, and from easy shots, sometimes
6 points in a row.
Yeah, but sometimes also that can happen when all the shots are snaps or from the boundary and or kicks under pressure. But these were like
there were 2 or 3 from just 20, 30 metres out,
and then Melbourne got back and got a couple of goals that just. So I really felt like Hawthorn weren't as far off. Melbourne weren't as good as people were making it. Where Melbourne did well is. In the past, when Hawthorn started to come back in the fourth quarter, Melbourne would have almost shut up.
Yeah, would have folded up.
And same after the second quarter. They made adjustments on the run to make sure that they stayed ahead. But you could argue that Hawthorn weren't as bad as the end result suggested and Melbourne weren't as good. Could have gone either way.
No,
but
I agree with that.
It'll be interesting to see where they go. And considering they had Jaeger O'Meara out.
Yeah.
So kind of an interesting outcome. It sets up on Friday, Richmond versus Collingwood. Now, this has got to be one of the biggest matches in Melbourne in a long time at the MCG. Yeah, this is like history, already people are, ringing people for tickets.
Oh, exactly. I mean, the tickets went on sale a couple of hours ago.
I haven't heard Ticketek, I've heard some, I haven't heard I've heard it's not been, look, it's working out, has it been absolutely
I don't
terrible,
think it's been an absolute disaster.
It doesn't seem to be.
Oh, it shouldn't be.
But
it's only one game they're trying to sell.
I think it's been hard, but then you also, with this one, you kind of go, well, not everyone is going to be able to get it. But quite a few people I'm reading of saying they've got tickets, managed to get tickets online on Twitter, so that's good. It's not doesn't seem as hot as that last time where it just completely melted down. Yeah. People actually seem to be able to purchase tickets, is what I'm saying, which is kind of always surprising.
Yeah. I mean, what is bizarre is that we're actually surprised that people are able to buy tickets. Surely that's your job, is to sell tickets. And we act surprised. Like, gee, you actually were able to purchase them.
So Sarah's written in, I'm hopefully going to be attending the preliminary final this Friday night. Do you have any guidelines for my first interaction with Collingwood fans in a confined space? Always good to be safety conscious.
Well, Sarah, we don't want to be victim shaming here.
Well, Collingwood were fine when I was there. They were pretty well behaved, so they didn't have any opposition there to really get stuck into.
I think the important phrase you've used here, Sarah, is confined space.
Always know where your exits are.
Yeah. and I would program into your phone that number that you ring for inappropriate behaviour
and just write every section.
Yeah.
Just have that ready to go.
The one they put up on the screens there.
And plus, there's going to be Richmond supporters there too, and I think they can hold their own.
Just as bad.
I think they can hold their own against Collingwood supporters. Can you imagine? It's going to be so loud. It's going to be feral. It's going to be, but in a good way. Like, it's going to be just raw, guttural.
I hope I'm really wrong about this, but I reckon there'll be a few punches thrown after the game, whether it's inside the G or outside or down the Swan Street. I reckon it'll be on Friday night.
Dean Stainsby wrote in, is it true that the police, Centrelink and Child Services are setting up a sting at the exits from MCG on Friday night as all their targets will be there at the same time? I think there's been variants of that joke going around a fair bit.
Yeah.
I thought it was very nice of, cash converters to open early this morning so Collingwood fans could get their money for tickets. Wayne Mead said, due to the fact that I don't support any of the teams remaining, is it okay to start criticising the Australian cricket team?
Oh, Wayne, go for it, son.
That is the thing. Once your team's out, it's time to move on to cricket, and it's time to start to bag the Australian cricket team, which they'll give you plenty of material, Wayne. You don't have to worry there. Scott McGullop said, is the only way to avoid witnessing another Richmond flag to eat as many strawberries as humanly possible? This is why you shouldn't eat fruit.
Oh, exactly.
You've said this for years, Serge.
It's dangerous, fruit. It can be dangerous. Or as our good friend Adam Rosenbachs, I think, mentioned this morning, that he's just managed to get the Coles miniature strawberries with needles in them.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He said the mini toys or whatever there. It is looking like a Richmond flag. I still think that's the most likely scenario out of all this, despite this weekend's media hype over certain teams. Corey Wickett wrote in, if Razor gets the Pies Tigers game, will he favour one team or just flip-flop between them to give himself as much screen time as possible?
Corey's not the only person to have a crack at Razor Ray.
No, when you say he's not the only one, like every AFL fan.
Everybody else. Which... You've got to ask the question about Razor Ray. I mean, does he love the spotlight as much as we make out?
He had a website for a business where it had him like posing, doing all different umpire things, and it was his own business. Like, there's no doubt.
Yeah, he does.
There's no doubt. You don't have a reputation like that out of nowhere. Because a bunch of other umpires, no one even knows who they are.
When players retire, they go into coaching or the media. Razor Ray's already got his eye on a media career, surely.
I think he'd like one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's got his eye on one. Yeah, I don't think the media necessarily have got their eye on it. But.
Well, he probably needs to commit an act of violence against a woman if he's going to really cement his spot in the media.
Yeah. He wants to, lock in Channel 9 and Triple M.
Richmond and Collingwood, what do you reckon? It's early days, so you don't need to give a hardened tip yet. But it's going to we don't know. It's one of those ones you can go,
geez, I can imagine Collingwood getting up, but then you look at it and you think, but it's you can't imagine Richmond letting this one go.
No.
So
I think it could be a great game. These teams,
it'd be a good game.
These two teams play the MCG, I reckon, better than anyone else. I really do. I think they're the two best. The way their brand stacks up.
Right. Their brand. But I'll go with the Tigers now. I can't see. I'll be changing my mind on that one.
So West Coast v Melbourne. I'm flying over there. I'm thrilled. I don't know anyone over there.
I don't know.
I'm going to be wandering around alone.
How do you reckon you'll go with the booing of the West Coast crowd?
Towards me or towards Melbourne?
Just generally. They boo anything over there.
Yeah, it's just, they will. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be, isn't it? Constant booing. Noise of affirmation.
They boo so much over there, I reckon, is knowing that the nearest city to them is Adelaide.
You're working a theme there. I think it'll be fun. I've been that stadium is amazing, and for this game, it is going to be absolutely.
Have you been to a game there yet?
Yeah.
No, you have. I haven't been to a game.
It's going to be.
It looks fantastic.
But this is a much bigger game, and this is going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to go. I'm really looking forward to it. And then for our Perth listeners, I'll be out drinking Saturday night, possibly alone, maybe happily, maybe sadly. So tell me where the good places are to go in Perth. I've been to Perth twice this year. This is my third time, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So regular visitor to Perth. Perth is a beautiful city.
Well, it is physically, yeah. I remember when we were there this time last year, and I was surprised. Perth is a very good-looking city. I was surprised how few people there seems to be there. Remember we were there Saturday night, there was not a car on the road.
Well, but I think with Perth, they go to different places too, so it's not, the city centre's not as busy, but there are other parts of it. But I like Perth. I always have a ball in Perth when I'm there. That might change this weekend, who knows. Adrian March said, how much have you aged due to the additional stress of following your team in September?
Not as much as... Did you see Jordan Lewis on Saturday when all the Melbourne players went to watch Casey?
Yeah.
And, you see Jordan Lewis, he was wearing the black duffel coat, the black-rimmed glasses, and the black beanie, and he fair dinkum looked 70 years old.
So you think it is amazing, like, God, he was good on the weekend.
Yeah, he has been, ever since
everyone
it came down to the wire of having to win a couple of games to make the finals and then the finals, he's been fantastic.
Trent wrote in, why is everyone complaining about how much Demon fans have to fly to Perth? Don't they all own private jets anyway? Well, not all of us, most of us.
No, just a Cessna is not a jet. I mean,
it is amazing how they just jack up the prices the minute.
Oh, look,
like because I bought it before the game had ended.
Yeah, you were smart, but it was it would have been bad if they'd turn around. I'll tell you what, you know who's been very quiet about this is and hardly surprising is Gillam. I mean, he came out and he wanted to whack Ticketek the other week when they stuffed up all the ticketing.
Yeah.
Now, I reckon this week would have been a really good time for him to ring John Baghetti at Virgin.
Yeah.
I know Virgin they're a corporate sponsor of the AFL, so they won't do it.
Well, they're the official partner.
The official partner. I mean, it would have been a good move for Gillen to ring Baghetti and say, mate,
and Joyce
CEO to CEO and Alan Joyce and say, how about this week you put on some extra flights, but you don't gouge everyone who's flying from Melbourne. You put on some extra flights, but you keep the prices.
I've got shareholders that I care about. I don't care about.
I know. But it's the sort of thing, whenever there's a corporate sponsor involved, they're remarkably quiet.
I know, but it's sort of, it's just inevitable, unfortunately. Nordberg wrote in, do you think Hawthorn are regretting the merger not going ahead?
People still go back to the merger. Was it 87, wasn't it?
No, it was 96.
Was it 96? Was it that recent?
Yeah, it was more recent than that.
Okay.
I think I think it just shows you that the fact that you keep these clubs alive has been overall a good thing.
Yeah, I don't think it's been a bad thing at all.
So, you saw that Friday night with the amount of people that
if we had merged with Hawthorn, we'd be, about to, in coming years, move into a new training session in Dingley, and nobody wants that.
But the thing is, you don't know what would have happened. It probably would have been, would you have become more like Hawthorn or more like Melbourne?
Well, that's right. I mean, you just don't know what would have happened.
It would have been weird. It would have been weird. Sean Brennan wrote in, for the Melbourne fans trying to purchase airfares to Perth this weekend, can Serge explain supply and demand?
Oh, it's pretty simple, Sean. It's supply and demand's a bit like wait for age, it's pretty much as it sounds. The supply of tickets is there, whether it's tickets for the game or tickets for the flights. There's a certain number, and depending on the demand, as soon as the demand goes up, so do the prices. That's just the free market capitalistic society we live in, Sean.
And you also teach economics at Melbourne University, we should add. Sean wrote in, while you're over in Perth, will you appear on FM Breakfast Radio and start some trade rumours?
Do you have to appear on breakfast radio to start trade rumours in Perth?
I think that's the best place to do it. They seem to have
with Brad Hardy? Does Brad Hardy still do breakfast radio?
Yeah, he was doing over there. I don't know if he's doing. I'm not sure he's doing breakfast, but he's still doing stuff over there. But remember last year they had the Fife to St Kilda was a lock.
Yeah, that was a done deal.
That was a done deal.
And then he signed like a 9-year contract about a minute later.
Yeah. Jim Woodcock wrote in. He sent in two very good questions. I should add. Jim did. Yeah. So the first one that I've got is, while they're in Perth, will Melbourne supporters take the opportunity to check on their mining portfolios?
That's not a bad question.
Absolutely true. The other one he sent through is, can you negatively gear your finals tickets?
Jim's got a fair bit of economics going around.
Rachel Louise Davis wrote in, are Qantas and Virgin refitting their entire planes to business class to accommodate these fans? That's a great idea, actually.
It's not a bad idea. Although you don't want to get the food. The food in Virgin business class isn't great, I've got to say.
Isn't it?
No. Qantas isn't so bad in business.
In business?
Yeah.
Right.
But Virgin...
This is another podcast you can start of you going through the various airlines. What's the best business class you've been on?
Best business class, probably Emirates.
Right.
Emirates or Cathay Pacific.
Right.
Cathay Pacific, although I have discovered the hard way, you cannot get a bucket of Coronas in business class.
Gee, you live a tough life, Serge. Business class, poolside bars.
Yeah.
You're like you know what you're like. You're like an Instagram model. You're living the you're a middle-aged man living the life of an Instagram model. It's amazing.
Just describe you for now as an influencer.
The other thing that happened yesterday, so getting off the AFL finals, but of course finals are happening all around.
There's grand finals here, there,
this great country of ours. We had two games yesterday where in grand finals, or finals or grand finals, where they were decided that there are problems with too many men on the field. So we had in the NEFL they had in the grand final, it was farcical when Southport, they won the premiership despite being caught with an extra man for the first 35 seconds for the last term. They did a head count.
Yeah.
Sydney Swans got a free kick and a 50-metre penalty. This is in obviously the reserves. Now, the rulebook says that the team caught with too many men on the field can have their whole score wiped in such a situation, but that didn't happen here. Now, Southport
was just a free and a 50, was it?
Yeah. Now, Southport did lead by 10 goals at that time, and they went on to win by 54 points. So I don't think, in fairness, was it the complete thing? They probably would have won it. But it said if the score had been wiped, they would have lost by 21 points and Sydney would have won. Okay. So that was the first one. Then in one of the finals for in the Sample, and this has been a hotter topic over there. I was talking to Jules Schiller this morning, who hosts ABC Drive over there, and so he was saying telling me how big it is over there. In the Sample preliminary final, which was later in the day, so these games are on the same day.
Yeah.
The North Adelaide were playing the Woodville West Torrens Eagles, and the Roosters came from behind to win the game by 5 points, but it's been claimed they had a 19th man on the field for the first 4 or 5 minutes of the last term. And they came back from being quite a bit.
This isn't under nines.
I'm always surprised it doesn't happen more because counting and footballers.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we get it right in the AFL so often. It's understood North Adelaide kicked 1 goal and 2 behinds during that period. So the North Adelaide are the Roosters, in case you don't follow the Sandful as closely as you and I do, Serge. So the Sandful have announced that the grand final will be between North Adelaide and Norwood, but now it's possible they could actually strip the Roosters of the 8 points they scored with the extra man, and that would hand victory to the Woodville West Torrens, so the Eagles. So they're going to have
to make that decision pretty quickly today.
Well, I'm trying to keep. I'm just looking on the tweeters.
This is a big story.
See if it's so. Now the thing is here is it's meant to be fairly simple. You get your whole score wiped
up to that point.
It seems to but it seems like people don't want to do this. But I think the NEFL one, I don't think it's going to be challenged, and it wasn't close enough of a. So that's a bit of a different outcome. I'm just looking while we're talking about.
Yeah. But the Sandford one, there's going to be a lot of heartache over that one, whichever way they go. And
so it's saying here that there's no
coaches are at fault here.
So there's no verdict at all. Now you would think that the rules are
fairly cut and dry, wouldn't it?
Set up for this, So, but they still at this point they haven't made a decision, so we don't know. So that's
you know whose fault this is? The runners.
Really?
The runner. I'll lay it fairly square at the feet of the runners.
Why are you blaming the runner?
Oh, because they're the ones who go out there and go, come on, Titus, off you come, have a break, and then blokes.
But what about the people controlling the interchange bench?
Yeah, they're usually the office boy. He just gets a job over the summer.
Right. So when you look at that, it's sort of interesting that that'll happen. Sean wrote in 2 finals today had teams fielding 19 players. Are we sure this isn't just a rule change for next year being secretly trialled?
Actually, Nerily Meadows from Fox, she suggested the same thing. She reckons,
Did you?
Yeah, she reckons this was the AFL setting up the 19 players.
I think the AFL would like less players, not more.
Yeah.
Damien Rufus Nolan wrote in, given the drama that's happened in the Sandfall preliminary final, is this a rare case of Adelaide players actually being found on a football field during finals?
What did they make them all stand up doing the power stance when
while
they counted them?
Yeah. Now, talking of the AFL trialling rules, the AFL Competition Committee met last week, which I was saying to someone the other day, only communism has as many committees as the AFL.
Or 5-year plans.
Yeah, and on top of this, I cannot, it is genuinely driving me crazy that we are still even talking these rules.
Yeah.
My brain wants to explode. Like Steve Hocking is single-handedly out to ruin the game, and I've never thought that of one individual. Like we always make jokes of the AFL, but his reign in being in for it's making me wish Simon Lethlean had never been led astray
by one of his staff members.
He wasn't led astray. I think he was the person
Steve
doing
Hocking,
it.
It's a reign of terror.
It is. It's
Steve
this
Hocking.
ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So the AFL Commission met, and they're all going off all these statistical analysis. Right. This is what bugs me too. Is I've spoken to several people about this who are either in the AFL or in the industry at clubs and various stuff. Right. The AFL says we have a very strong, convincing statistical analysis that shows the problem of congestion, all this, and scoring, and these will fix it. They say. And so it's an evidence-led, data-based approach, right? So that's their whole
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
But what I'm arguing is you've identified a problem that actually has corrected a lot in the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season, all actually very entertaining. And then your solution, you've trialled it. So if it's an evidence database-led approach, your solution to the problem you think you've identified, which I'm not completely accept as much as that
anyway.
But say you're right on that. Your solution, you've played 2 VFL games, both involving the worst teams in the league. I think one of them was, they both had, is it Coburg were in both of them?
Yeah.
So bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, barely won a game.
With the 2 worst teams in the league, another one was another bottom 4 and another one was another. So with terrible VFL teams, you've had 2 games. Now, that is not and then they come out and say, and that shows that scoring has been significantly up under these new rules. Now, hang on. That's a sample size of 2 games. So if you're going to be data-led, that's not enough of a sample size. No. So even under your own justification, you're not even meeting the bare minimum of that in 2 games. It's just...
With dud teams.
With dud teams, put it in the AFL preseason.
Yeah.
Fine. That's where you've always tested stupid rules before. And meanwhile, we're watching you do the ruck rules ridiculous, the countdown clock's ridiculous, the
protected zone
was ridiculous. You had to treat the knee contact below the knees is ridiculous. Take care of your own house first before bringing in stuff that's completely unnecessary. And the fact that the fans have all said, we do not want these. It has been overwhelming, the fans saying. Every gig I did round the country, not one person said they were interested in them. And then they just go, we're not listening to them.
Overwhelmingly, the AFL just don't care.
They just don't care.
And not listening. And if they did want to have some more accurate or proper data or what have you to justify this either one way or the other, tell you what, drop the AFLX next pre-season and instead say we're going to have 2 weeks of serious trial matches to check out some new rules. We're not playing Coburg reserves against the Northern Blues. We're going to have Richmond versus Collingwood 1 week, and then we're going to have Hawthorn versus Melbourne and Adelaide versus West Coast. Right? Those 3 games are all going to be played under these conditions, and we'll see what we think after that.
Yeah,
and then people may at least give them the opportunity to see whether it's a good idea or not.
And then also give it another season without these rules, see if the game is still So that's where I find it absolutely amazing. So the
justification of people's positions here is just bizarre.
So this is the AFL Commission. So these following rule changes and tweaks are going to go to the AFL Commission, and then the AFL Commission may decide to accept them or not. Let's hope the AFL Commission are listening to fans and actually see this as madness.
That's a huge assumption.
I know, but sometimes they do actually a better job, the commission, than sometimes the executive.
Yeah.
So they're looking at a 6-6-6 setup at all centre bouncers. So we all know that's 6 in the got to be in the back half, 6 in the
forward half, and 6 in the middle,
and
that'll make.
That to me is I don't actually have a huge problem with that. It's not. I don't really see it's going to do a lot, but. Whatever. I'm not going to die. You got to know what hill to die on, right? I'm not. So I don't like it, but I don't really care that much. An 18-metre goal square, which is double the current size. Now, to me, that is one of the most ridiculous.
I still don't know what the justification is.
So the justification, I've had this conversation with a few people. I was talking to Jonathan Brown about it, actually, when we were doing Nova one morning before we went on air, because he's had the briefing on that. So he was saying the justification is bad teams have trouble getting out of the defensive 50. So because teams can, like Richmond at the moment, just lock you in and stuff like that. So the justification is if you have a longer goal square, when the player kicks out, it'll get to the fatter bit of the ground, making it harder to defend.
It'll clear the man on man.
It'll clear it out. My problem is it means the whole teams will push up to where the ball's likely to land.
Yeah.
But that means if there is a turnover, which is going to happen more to the bad teams, the forward 50 is a lot emptier.
It'll come back.
So it'll come back into it quicker and into a much So I'm yet to be convinced that this will do much to change it. In fact, and Damien, and don't take my word for it, because what do I know about footy strategically? Damien Hardwick said on this about this rule, be careful what you wish for, because some of these rules will actually benefit the good teams, not the bad teams.
The bad teams.
So the problem you're trying to fix, because the bad teams can just as well often lock clubs in and bottle them up a bit more and shut them down to play that Fremantle side of just trying to stop the other side, negating everything they do, very negative style, and this will help the attacking side go,
exactly.
oh, great.
But if I wanted to be cynical about it, you'd say the AFL, they don't care whether it benefits the good teams more than the bad teams, because half the reason they're trying to justify all these rules is because Channel 7 want more goals kicked.
Oh, yeah.
And if the good teams kick more goals, that means more ads for Channel 7.
Yeah, but it also means that, like you and I know, if it's a blowout earlier, people just switch off.
People switch off anyway.
So, this is where these people don't think beyond, the first thought that comes in their head. Yeah. Runners to only be allowed on the field after goals.
So that doesn't bother me in the slightest.
No, my thing with runners, though, is I don't see the thing where I'm constantly going, gee, these runners are really having a huge impact on the game. Like, people say they get in the way and all this sort of stuff. And I know occasionally we've had runners that have positioned themselves strategically and then have been told off and all that sort of stuff. But I think runners are part of the game. I think that's a long game. I think that's often you need to try and convey some messages. I don't have the problem with runners that a lot of people do. But also I don't really care that much.
Yeah, also I don't really care. But I don't mind if they pull back on the runners, because these days with so many interchanges, it's not long until a player gets to the bench anyway, and you can give him a message then. If he's got to wait an extra 2 minutes, well, so be it.
Yeah, and I guess with all those players coming off and on all the time, you can just give them messages to send out too. So I
just don't think runners are as necessary now
as they once were.
Yeah,
so that's fine, whatever. The other thing they're going to put to the AFL Commissioner is a tighter rule interpretations across 8 categories. Now, I had a look, and maybe I'm just looking in the wrong spot, but I couldn't see what all of them were. One, it says incorrect disposal, but the rest I don't really know. Now, that to me, I've long said with the AFL, the rules are all there. They just didn't often interpret it the way. So if that's, I think they're better at getting rid of rules that don't work, bringing, like they did once with the sub rule, they just got rid of it, and tweaking some of the interpretation on some of these things. Like, incorrect disposal's always been an interesting one, because technically, if the ball's just knocked out in a tackle, and a lot of times I think incorrect disposal is just called as knocked out in the tackle, when really it is actually incorrect disposal. Like when a player just drops the ball, quite obviously.
Yeah, often it's the result of a very effective tackle, a good tackle, and the ball spits out.
Yeah. So the AFL argue starting positions and doubling the length of the goal square when they were trialled in now only 2 VFL matches. This is what annoys me. It's 2. That is not a sample size of any worth. Scoring was up 15% and tackling was down 14%. So they thought that was sort of a good idea. I don't know about that. I just sort of think that is not enough. That is not AFL. Those players do not have the skills.
I just don't believe those figures. The AFL could tell you any number. I believe
those feel, but it's 2 games. So, how do we know those 2 games were just, they could have been in better weather?
Yeah.
That's, do you know what I mean? It's not, even, I'm not a maths expert, but anyone with any brain knows that to do a survey and to get a data set worth its weight, you can't just do 2 games.
No, you've got to have a reasonable, set of figures and the whole...
we won't go on anymore, because I will just go on for days about how crazy I think it is. But the goal square, and the thing is, no one is calling for this.
Nobody wanted it, and I don't even know. Was it Steve Hocking? Who was it who first suggested let's double the size of the goal square?
Steve Hocking's been the one who's been controlling it, but then there's also people within. James Podsiadly is one of the key people in there, and a few other people like that.
James Podsiadly, fair dinkum.
Something I know you're super excited about.
Oh, yeah.
And you text me with excitement on the day it was announced. Grand Final Entertainment. We always love to hear what they've got. They've confirmed that the 2 major acts they're going to have on the day is the Black Eyed Peas and Jimmy Barnes. Now, I think Jimmy Barnes is just like a sort of a safe tick.
Barnes, nobody can argue with Barnes.
No one's going to be upset. It fits the sort of thing. The Black Eyed Peas. Now, firstly... The Black Eyed Peas, this is the first time they've been out here since 2009. That's because they haven't had a hit since 2009. I was going to say,
it's probably the first time they've played anywhere since 2009.
Secondly, Fergie's not coming.
Yeah.
So it's just, you tweeted that you thought this would be the worst performance that would even make Meatloaf look bad.
Yeah, as I said, a band with 3 vocalists, none of whom can sing. And like our old mate Will I Am,
our old friend of the show,
Will I Am. Yeah, he's had a couple of solo hits, but you couldn't say he's, you know. And you remember their performance at the Super Bowl a few years ago. If ever there was an act that benefits from lasers and big production, it's this. And they're going to get what I reckon is going to be funny is that's what they think they're going to be doing. It's going to be like Super Bowl Part 2 for the Black Eyed Peas. And they're going to get there, and the AFL say, "See that little square over there?
You're there.
That you're going to be there. You know, once a year we put an ice bath there, but today you get to play. It's you." You know?
Well, the Killers were terrific last year. I know everyone said that, but I was there at the game, and it was just genuinely, it was fun, and everyone enjoyed it.
Well, Barnesy will do that. He'll trot out.
Barnesy will do all right.
What song will Barnesy do?
Working Class Man.
He's got to do Working Class. No Second Prize.
I hope he does some Chisel hits, because Chisel, I'm walking with excellent.
He's got to do K-San, the national anthem.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll be standing up for that. Yeah. I like this, though. AFL CEO Gillon McLachlan was asked about the fact that Fergie would not be attending. And
I'm surprised he even knew.
No, this is the best bit. Gillon said, he was asked on 3AW, he said, this is what Gillon said, Will I Am is the lead singer on all the songs they'll play and has been the key songwriter. So I like McLachlan's sort of
good on you, Gil.
Rock historian, music historian, Gillon McLachlan.
Well, at first I thought, well, you know, Black Eyed Peas haven't been relevant in about 15 years. Yeah. So they're the perfect fit for the AFL.
Oh, you know. Well, where is the love? I think to be honest, I think it's, if you're a Black Eyed Peas fan, you're going to be happy, right? And a lot of people obviously are, they sell well and all that. But I think what did me in on the Black Eyed Peas, where I was sort of moved from indifferent to kind of not really liking them, is when Sunrise made a big deal of that "Where Is the Love" song. Yeah. And it ends ever after that, I was just like, can't listen to them. No. Because that's all I can think of.
I mean, they'll trot out "I Got a Feeling," which is, it's not a bad sort of pump-up song. It's fine. And Will I Am will probably do his Happy song.
Oh, is that him? I thought that was Pharrell.
You're right, it was Pharrell. The bloke in the hat. No. So Will I Am, he won't be doing that.
Your knowledge of...
Maybe Will I Am, he'll be doing the...
I think Jimmy Barnes is going to do some Pharrell covers. Fronting.
Maybe he wears a Pharrell hat.
Yeah. So anyway, that's going to be fun. Oh, Barnes' band will be joined by special guest, Australian musician Diesel.
Diesel's been playing in Barnes' band for years. They're brothers-in-law.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's going back a long time. Yeah. I'm surprised they don't have Diesel headlining, knowing the AFL.
I'd rather see Diesel playing with the Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, I know you would.
I'd watch that.
The A-League, one of our all-time favourite generators of content, they've come out... Now,
I want to generate some.
I might have a different take on this to you, because I was thinking about this last night. Yeah. So the A-League bosses have come out and they're going to trial, they say, a suite of new entertainment across the first month of the season to try and win fans back to the competition.
Right.
They're going to have, and we mentioned this before, safe smoke from flares. So it's like a safe flare. It doesn't have the...
So they're going to have flares let off by the actual A-League rather than
I
think
they've looked into some, what things that generate smoke like flares do, but don't have the heat. Don't have that, which has always been the danger.
Why does soccer need coloured smoke anyhow? My question.
Well, yeah, I mean,
surely the game stands up on its own.
Well, more the question is why do other sports not need it? Who doesn't like coloured smoke?
Well, there's nothing wrong with coloured smoke. I'm sure the Black Eyed Peas will use plenty of coloured smoke.
So they're going to also have fan zones modelled on the World Cup, which I don't really know what that means. No. And lights and music during play are all on the agenda. They want to lure young families to the soccer. I'll tell you how you lure young families. Give all the kids an iPad and somewhere to plug it in, and people will be quite happy. Central Coast and Wellington matches will feature the safe smoke. They're going to trial controlled flare releases from the stands. So I don't think it's the fans even letting them off.
Yeah, no, this will be the A-League be in charge of the flares.
They're missing the point. Yeah. People like letting off flares.
Because they're illegal.
But people who like flares, they're a bit like people who like guns. They just like them because they like them.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't want people to take it off them.
No.
So the idea that it's a bit like saying to a gun nut, "Hey, how would you feel? You can't shoot the gun, but someone near you will shoot it for you." Yeah. It's like you're not getting the logic of the.
Yeah, I mean, flares at the soccer. I mean, that's half the fun. Is the fact that they're illegal. You're not allowed to let off flares at the soccer.
I think they're doing it at Central Coast and Wellington because it's pretty safe because there's no fans there. So they could just set them off. Damn. Although,
what if Usain Bolt gets hit by a flare? Oh, yeah.
There'll be music playing with accompanying video during goal kicks, corners, and substitutions.
Oh, how annoying is that going to be? It's bad enough the AFL, but half that stuff they do. They quarter time and three-quarter time.
So anyway, but I will on the flip side say, in fairness to the A-League, while I think some of those are not going to make much difference to anything, they've already been criticised a lot by soccer fans. But the A-League also get criticised for not doing enough last year to market or make it interesting. So they're kind of football fans in Australia are the most difficult to deal with.
Yeah,
they are so protective of the sport in a way,
and they're defensive about everything.
Defensive about everything, and like to the point where, and I say this like, I've had several things where I've been a Victory member all like since Victory started. I've been all their grand finals. Right? Yeah, I go a lot. Right. They still say
I've never been to an A-League match.
So I've been. So I go all the time. Right. So whenever I tweet something about the A-League, people will get all jump and go, "Well, you're an AFL fan," and it's like, well.
You can like both.
So basically, the football fans, the hardcore group in Australia, they only are interested in you if you only like football or think it's better than every other sport. Yeah. Like that's the only, and they crack down on it and they just attack like nothing else. Like I read a joke piece once having a go at actually the News Limited papers and stuff about how they always bag soccer. Yeah. And I wrote a piece and it was headlined, "Soccer is the biggest threat to our country since communism."
Yeah.
And it was like written in that hysterical style, right? Like over the top, it's going to end it. And so I put up, most soccer people got it and thought it was funny.
But some took it literally.
But I had the ones that didn't were sending me death threats. And other soccer fans had to come in and say...
Death by flares.
Yeah, they were literally like sending you death threats. Yeah. And you're just going...
"I'll burn you to death in a grandstand."
Yeah, with safe smoke. And you're just going, well, this is the problem this sport has, Yeah. So the A-League announced they're trialling these things. And look, I don't think they're going to make a huge difference. But at the same time, at least they're trying something,
Well, they've seen that the success of things like the Big Bash, where they have all this sort of stuff, and the NBL. You go, like I'm an NBL fan, you go to the basketball, it is fair dinkum bells and whistles, pumping music, not so much safe smoke, but there's plenty of flames and thumping music. And it kind of works at the basketball because your playing area is so small.
And it's made for basketball. I mean, it's part of the
and you're close to the action, you're close to the players.
Yeah. Tennis, Leighton Hewitt, this is one of the fun stories I've seen in a while. He played in the Davis Cup on the weekend.
Was that the seniors Davis Cup? Or?
No, he just decided that he was the best chance for them to beat Austria, which he actually did in the doubles, to keep our hopes alive in the playoffs. He was playing his 80th match in the green and gold. 19 years after making his debut, he nominated himself against the struggling Jordan Thompson, which is kind of amazing. He's 37. And there he is coming and playing. Scott McCulloch wrote in, "Is it worrying that Australia returned to Leighton Hewitt, an up-and-coming 37-year-old, to save us in the Davis Cup?"
But he didn't even save us. I mean...
Well, he's won that match.
Yeah, but how bad is Australian tennis going? A, when, Leighton Hewitt's one of our best four players in the nation at the age of 37, and B, we can't even beat Austria.
I know. Australian tennis is...
Tennis
is... It's funny.
John Millman and Alex Demon are fantastic up-and-comers.
Yeah.
You'd write off Tomic. Kyrgios, you never know what you're getting.
Mm.
But...
Australian tennis has suffered from the international growth of tennis in sort of Eastern Europe and other parts, and Asia and various things, so more competition. And I think, and it's not reported on as much, but the amount of the rise of the NRL and the AFL in getting into the talent pathways and getting young talented athletes into their sports has affected tennis in a way it's never really quite recovered from. Speaking of that, though, the Wallabies on the weekend. This was a crazy game. A lot of people wouldn't have. A lot of people don't care about the Wallabies, and why would they? But they lost to Argentina on the weekend, and this is interesting if you were sort of a fan of the Wallabies, 20 years ago when they're at their peak.
Oh, exactly, and they used to be. And you look back at, I mean, off the top of your head some of the great Wallaby names. Even if you didn't follow Australian rugby that closely, you still knew about blokes like John Eales.
Yeah, Matthew Burke, and you knew all these sort of Stephen Larkham and all these guys. And you also knew, I remember in Melbourne, if a Wallabies were playing New Zealand, it was still a bit of a thing, Like AFL was obviously the biggest, but it was still for a while
Olympic Park, it used to be massive there before they built Amy Stadium.
Yeah, but it used to be a bit of a thing, and now it's just like, in the World Cup in 2003, now most people wouldn't even know. Not only did they lose to Argentina playing in Australia, 23-19, with some of the worst play you've ever seen. I watched the replay of the second half, and they were just missing 2-metre passes to the players. It was unbelievable. There was also a fight with a fan that broke out at the end of the game between a few of the different Wallabies players all got involved in it. And there was a lot of push and shove. The man went off his head, calling him effing useless and effing disgraceful, and saying, "Why don't you play with some heart?" And then they had to actually restrain him and pull him away.
Serious question. The thing I couldn't work out: how did a supporter get that close to the players?
Well, they were signing after the loss,
face to face.
Not many fans were there. Not many hung around. Right. But they decided to go over and sign autographs.
And this bloke thought, here's my chance.
And that was his chance, and he got dragged away. So it was pretty. It was pretty bizarre, and it was.
Players should just broke.
It was an injured Australian player actually, and a Wallabies official who actually dragged the man away. So security was all over the shop too. It's the decline of Australian rugby is one of the most amazing things I've seen.
Why is it, do you reckon?
I think
is it just a generational thing? They don't have as many good players, or
once
stop promoting it through schools.
Once rugby in 2003, and so rugby had that 90s run of success where they were winning World Cups and they were beating the All Blacks fairly regularly, and there's that they beat the British and Irish Lions when they toured here for the first time ever, and Wallabies was, and that's the Eels era and stuff, and Wallabies were absolutely at their peak, and they were exciting, and Australians were really getting into it. Super Rugby was even doing well. And the AFL actually noticed, and it had turned professional in 95.
Yeah.
So the AFL suddenly and the NRL suddenly went, we've really got to compete against rugby union now. So in true AFL style, especially going into the Northern States, just ruthless efficiency and effectiveness. They have actually decimated a lot of the stocks. So a bunch of schools that have never had Australian rules in the last 5 years have established AFL programs. These are the top private schools in Sydney. And I was up there for the Glebe Greyhounds, which is a junior footy club. I was up there to do a gig one night, and they invited me to their lunch during the day. I'm
thinking the Glebe Greyhounds, and now that'd be a night out.
Yeah, that'd be. No, it wasn't there. No. Anyway, it was the. They were telling me, so it's a junior club.
Yeah.
They literally have had to put a cap on accepting players because they don't have enough room.
Yeah.
And they were telling me they remember when the club was the days of the club having not enough players. Yeah. They had to drive around to pick up kids.
Yeah.
Now they've got
more than use.
And all the people I was talking to, so it was all adults at this event. The kids weren't there. It was a fundraising thing. And I was talking to them all. A heap of them were rugby union fans who had swapped over to AFL.
Yeah.
And same when you go to Swans games, you talk to people, the man... So NRL hasn't been as decimated by AFL, but rugby union has been smashed by it.
Because it has traditionally been a group of private schools in New South Wales and Queensland that have kept rugby alive.
That's right.
And as you say, the AFL go in there with their Oz kick and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as you... I know it happens every year, and it happens in New Zealand as well, is that in junior underage rugby, some parents get upset when they find little Johnny is playing against a kid who's 3 times his size.
Yeah, they do have those problems,
weight
restrictions
rather than just age restrictions like they do.
Yeah. So the other problem rugby unions had is the senior professional side of it is become increasingly disconnected to the grassroots.
Yeah.
So the Shoot, Shield and others are almost run very separately from the ARU. In fact, the ARU are seen as like actively disliked and completely inept. They've also got that terrible deal through Super Rugby with South Africa and New Zealand, and there's a lot of people that say we should just cancel that relationship.
They want to get their act together pretty soon, Australian rugby, or the sport will just be dead.
Well, it will just go back to being an amateur sport played amongst some very, and that's already, it's heading that way at a rate of knots. There's some signs of some grassroots level being slightly better, but the professional level is terrible. We talked the other day about the Canterbury Bulldogs having a mad Monday.
Oh, didn't they just?
So, where they were caught photographed out in the street, passed out and vomiting and naked and all these various things.
A couple of blokes are nuded up in the street.
A few more details have come out, and one of them is there's CCTV footage of this, which is, we already knew they were grabbing each other's genital.
Right.
We already knew that. But they also said some of the players were putting their genitals in drinking glasses as they paraded around the pub.
Okay, so they've unzipped.
I think they weren't even wearing clothes. A lot of them.
And put the genitals into glasses, presumably that are
full of beer,
or rum or whatever, and walking around just giving it a drink.
There's just, you can always rely on the NRL, can't you? So that's just a bit of update we've had. The other big stories that broken up there is the Rabbitohs are suddenly engulfed in a sexting scandal. We haven't had a good sexting scandal.
We had for a while.
We had the Dane Swan photos that got leaked by that woman who is now suing.
She just got arrested, I think, just a couple of weeks ago.
But that was a slightly different case. So this is so apparently what happened is this involves Sam Burgess, who's a UK player, but he's played for the Rabbitohs. He went back to England briefly and come back out. Then
he was sort of their hero in the premiership a few years ago. Yeah.
So he on Facebook Messenger, he was exchanging. A young woman contacted him. How's this though? This is so rubbish behaviour from them. Yeah. She contacts him to say, someone's using your profile on social media, on Tinder, a fake app of yours.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just giving you a heads up, right? Now, apparently that's what she contacted him. So he sort of says thanks. Then he says, did you swipe right? And then he thanked her, but then he said the boys want some FaceTime. So they then video chat her, and they then start flashing parts of their bodies at her and doing all sorts of things.
Were they in drinks at the time?
Well, I don't know if they were currently stirring drinks with them. And a whole bunch of stuff that I won't go to all of it. They were all sort of on a bunch of other stuff, and they kept ringing her and hassling her and doing all sorts of stuff around this. So she finally contacted Souths 4 months ago and saying that...
Yeah, I was about to say, this happened like early in the season, didn't it? And she
contacted them and said 4 months ago, and she said, here I am just, giving him a heads up. Instead, I cop all this nudity, and they started ringing her and abusing her, basically, and stuff like that. And Souths acknowledge what had happened, but then they just didn't respond to her follow-up emails at all. Did nothing until she went to the media. So once again, now Burgess was asked. They haven't. The photos don't. It's not easy to see they haven't confirmed that it's Burgess, but when Burgess was asked, but the photos do. When Burgess was asked, "Are these photos of you?" He said, "There's obviously an ongoing investigation going into it. No comment." That's not something you say if it's not you.
No.
Do you? You don't go.
So look, if I'm going to stir a drink, it's
So it's kind of amazing. Now there's talk of will he be stood down because they're still in the finals. They won on the weekend, I think, by 1 point. So they're still around. But just a complete. I mean, they just don't engage their brain, do they?
No.
Like, it's just stunning.
Has Russell Crowe had anything to say about this?
No, not yet. What do you think what did they think was going to happen?
Also,
See,
that question there is the one that we've used many a time, is what did they think? They didn't.
They didn't.
None of them. None of them seem to have the ability to slightly look ahead at the possible or potential consequences of their actions.
And even the step before that, why would they think any of this was funny?
Yeah.
Like, why would they do that to someone? I understand sometimes there might be two willing participants and all that sort of stuff. But if it's not, why would you do it?
So if Sam Burgess had half a brain, when the girl contacted him and said, look, somebody's using your image or whatever on Tinder, here's the heads up, he's sort of gone, thanks for that. I'll talk to Tinder and make sure that's taken down.
Yeah.
You don't then turn that into...
That's right.
I'll tell you what, I'll then text her a picture of myself stirring a schooner with the old
Well, I don't know if he was stirring a schooner. I think they were just flashing bits of their bodies at her. But he's married as well, so apparently his wife's not too thrilled about the whole thing.
It's a short step from flashing bits of your body to stirring a schooner, in my experience.
You've never tasted something so good than one that's been stirred by...
Shaken, not stirred.
See, these things, this is where I realise that maybe I'm weird. These things don't even occur to me. I've never once been drinking a beer at a pub and thought, you know what would be great? You know what would be hilarious if I stripped down and
stir the drink.
And stir the drinks
but
with my wedding tackle. I've never once even had that thought.
But even if you have had that thought, do you then say, but it's no point doing it unless somebody captures it for posterity on their phone, you know? Unless it's photographed, it didn't happen.
Oh, it's amazing.
And if you're going to take a photograph of it, there's no point having that photo if you don't send it to someone.
There's just so many points along the way that you go, something could have stopped this. Moeen Ali, the England all-rounder, he's accused a player in his latest, he's got a biography out, that an Australian player, who he doesn't name, was guilty of racial vilification against him, calling him Osama. They helpfully add in the paper I got this from that's a reference to Osama bin Laden, just in case you're wondering. Not another Osama.
Not another Osama.
Not Osama who is the local postman in your area of Baghdad.
There is the odd Osama getting around. It's not totally uncommon name.
So he said that after a match that an Australian player turned to him on the field and said, "Take that, Osama." He said, "I could not believe it. I remember getting really red. I've never been so angry on a cricket field." He decided not to publish the Australian player's name. Who, if you had to take a guess, who would you say it is?
Gee, I don't know. Is he playing at the moment?
No. I don't know who it is. I'm just saying if I had to put my money on someone.
He is playing at the moment, but not officially with
the Australians. If I had to put my money on someone, they would have once promoted TVs.
Yes.
But I don't know it's him, and it might not.
So we won't name him.
But if you had to put your money on someone...
I'd be right with you on that one.
In fairness to him, there's a few others I wouldn't... In fact, I don't know how many I would put in the category of no way.
Yeah, and in fairness to the player that we're thinking of, would he even be that well read that he's heard of Osama bin Laden? You know.
Apparently, he said. Moeen Ali said he approached Trevor Baylor, who was then the English coach, and they sought out Darren Lehman to confront him and say, "Did you know about this?" Lehman then asked the player, "Did you call Moeen Osama?" And the player denied it, saying, "No, I said, take that, you part-timer."
Yeah.
Instead of take that, Osama.
You part-timer. There's a phrase that they use.
You use all the time.
All the time, the cricketers.
What an amazing misunderstanding. What a hilarious mix-up. Sometimes the excuses are just like... Anyway, so...
if it said, "No, I didn't call that Osama," take that, you prick, or, just an obscenity. It would be believable, but take that, you part-timer.
God, amazing. So anyway, that was a kind of an interesting one there.
Go back to your cottage green cricket field, you know.
Someone, who was it? I think one of the guys I was with at the Broden, who is in the comedy Arnie Donna, in the comedy group Arnie Donna, in the middle of the Hawthorn game, when it was obvious Melbourne were going to win in the last, not the middle, last 2 minutes game, he goes, "Go back to your beautiful houses in Glenferrie, Hawks fans." And even this Hawks fan turned around laughing like,
your beautiful house.
Your beautiful house in Glenferrie. Take that. Buffalo Bills, the NFL's back. If I watched the 49ers almost blow a significant lead over Detroit this morning, which caused me a bit of a heart attack. But the Buffalo Bills who have been not travelling well.
They haven't been for decades, really.
They're only 2 rounds in, but they were down at 1.286 in the first 30 minutes. And the week before, they got destroyed 47-3 by the Ravens. One of their players, Vontae Davis, who's a 2-time Pro Bowler, it's his first season at Buffalo after 9 years with Miami and then Indianapolis. Halfway through the game against the Chargers, he just retired.
What, he just decided that was he's done for the day?
Things are going so badly. He said he just retired, got into his civvies and left.
See, that's even better. Yeah. Not only did he walk up to the coach at half time and say, "Mate, I'm done here. I'm done." Yeah. He's then gone and had a shower, put the gear on, and driven home.
So Buffalo linebacker Lorenzo Alexander told reporters that he was told Davis quit at half time. He said it was completely disrespectful. Coach Sean McDermott said he pulled himself out of the game. He told us he was done. According to ESPN, Davis changed into street clothes at the break, said he was done and left the stadium.
He had something to go to.
They ended up losing 31-20 to the Chargers. That is amazing. I've never heard of someone quitting. I do know some boxing matches where...
Well, it was like the bloke who we spoke about last week. He had an agreement with the cops to give himself up after the game, and he's done a runner at half time.
He's done the Blues Brothers again.
Yeah.
No, this one he just quit. Just went, you know what? This team's terrible.
Will he be selected again this week, do you think? Because, he's an all-pro linebacker. He'd be on a decent
No,
wage.
I don't think he's fully retired. Like, he's just retired from the sport.
Oh, it wasn't just the game.
No, and I don't think he can just go and sign with another club because Buffalo aren't going to do him any favours now. They're going to say...
Mate,
he's just given up football. Do you reckon down at Carlton, Brendan Bolton's rapidly blocking this on the servers so that no one can get any ideas? It's terrible. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's an exciting week.
It is.
I'll be in Perth.
I won't be. I'll be sitting at home on my own, drinking heavily and watching Melbourne and West Coast. And, of course, Richmond-Collingwood. I might actually go to that game Friday night.
That's going to be...
It's going to be a cracker.
That'll be great.
And as I said before, that is one of the... In all seriousness, Melbourne, the town, is just going to be going off this week.
Oh, yeah.
It's just...
And I can't wait. I'm getting to Perth on Friday night, so I cannot wait to see what it feels, get the feel of that city.
If you see a bloke in a cheap suit and hat drinking on his own... You'll know who it is.
Yeah, that's right. And let's hope they're both good games, actually.
Yeah. And
although I'd much prefer if it's a Melbourne blow them out in the first quarter.
Yeah.
These are. I don't know. How do people do this how do Hawks fans do this every year? It's stressful.
How do you do it? In really close games in finals, just send you.
I was pretty stressed on when Hawthorn started that comeback.
Yeah, when they got to 12 points, here we go.
It is stressful.
Yeah.
So, but it's much better than the sadness of complete utter irrelevancy.
Exactly. And so next week we'll be back with our special grand final week edition.
Grand final edition, and let's hope I make it out of Perth alive.
Yeah, good luck with that.
See you next week.